So what is going to happen with home prices? Home prices are down a lot all over Canada, all over the United States. There's big problems everywhere that we go. So what are you going to do? What are you going to do in the future now to try to fight this? How to get better than this? And this is my question to you. So we're going to look at something today. I'm just going to show you a little bit on the paperwork, and we want to see what you think about all of this, because I think that we're in a lot of trouble. So we have three different categories of homes. We would say in North America, we have homes that are over a million people in that city. We have other homes from 100,000 to a million, and we have the other areas that are 100,000 or less people. And so generally, the cities that are the largest have the biggest swings up and down, and that is all based off of land values. Then we have the other two classes that aren't as contingent on home values. So let's take a look, you guys, at something I wanted to show you today, and let me know what you think of this. So if we take a look at this, we have somebody here making $100,000 per year, and he has a bank approval. This is how bank approvals work. So one third of your income is supposed to go to housing. Let's say it's this one right here, and you get one third for housing. And then the bank also wants you to spend one third on living expenses and one third on taxes. And that's how banks go down the road to approving you for a property. So it doesn't really go as much by your year, like how much money you make per year. It goes on this one right here. One third of your property is allowed to be for housing. And this is the main thing. So if we're going to look at last year, let's say, last year in 2022, on average, at the beginning of the year, before the interest rates went absolutely bananas, you would be able to get 5 times your salary, 5x. In 2023, where we are today, you're now getting 2.5x. That's a big problem. You are now getting half the money that you would last year. So that means if you made a $100,000 this year, you would get a $250,000 mortgage. That's it. So right now, when you're in Toronto and you're looking at this and they're telling you that your mortgage now, you're going to have to get an $800,000 mortgage. Well, just divide it by 2.5. Where are you? You're going to be in a lot of trouble then, right? At 2.5. And so this is where you have to be paying attention to. And this doesn't matter if you're in Atlanta, if you're in LA, if you're in New York or in Canada, doesn't matter where you are. This is how they do the math. Your salary, period, one third has to go to housing. Now, here comes the problems. If we look at the problems, it's coming all over the place. Number one is your interest rate. But number two, this second section here under living. Now, this is what the banks will look at, and they're going to tell you that what happens to your insurance. I know my insurance went up. My car payments went up. My gas is way up by like 50%. My food in the past few years is up 50%. So everything is getting squeezed. There's nowhere that is getting cheaper. My question to you is, has taxes changed at all? Taxes have not changed at all. And so when it comes to housing, now all of a sudden, everyone's mortgage payments are going up more and more and more. So where I live, for example, the average price of the home is $1,200,000. But this gives us a little bit of hard math to look at. So let's just imagine that this home price dropped down and is now $1 million, okay, for a property. With the interest rates where they are today, and they're probably going to be raising interest rates again, we're probably going to be ending up with interest rates around 7%, okay? Before this is all done. At 7%, do you see what the interest rate, how much interest would you need on this right here? You would need $70,000 per year in interest. Interest only. That's not your mortgage payment. That's just interest. But look at this from last year when I was locking in rates below 2%, at 1.75, that means on my mortgage, I would have to come up with 175, that's $17,500. 17,500. 17,500. 17,500. 17,500. 17,500. 17,500. 17,500. 17,500. 17,500. 17,500. 17,500. 17,500. 17,500. 17,500. 17,500. 17,500. 17,500. 17,500. 17,500. 17,500. 17,500. 17,500. 17,500. 17,500. 17,500. 17,500. 17,500. 17,500. 17,500. 17,500. 17,500. 17,500. 17,500. 17,500. 17,500. 17,500. 17,500. 17,500. 17,500. 17,500. 17,500. 17,500. 17,500. 17,500. 17,500. 17,500. 17,500. 17,500. 17,500. 17,500. 17,500. 17,500. 17,500. 17,500. 17,500. 17,500. 17,500. 17,500. 17,500. 17,500. 17,500. 17,500. 17,500. So last year on my mortgage, I was paying $17,000, and this year I have to pay $70,000. Where does that extra $50,000 come from between these two numbers? That 50 grand, now I have to make an extra $100,000 just to not lose my home. So that it's 50, what is it? 52,500 if you're right. And in your tax bracket, if you're already buying that, you're going to be paying 50% tax. So where are you going to come up with $104,000 extra just to spend it on interest this year and not lose? But wait, this is not the end of the story. So not only do I have to make $104,000 more this year just to pay the interest, we also said before, well, my insurance is going up, my car is going up, my gas, my food, my kids' daycare is going up, braces are going up, everything is going up. So now I'm saying you have to make $104,000 extra just to pay the bank interest, let alone everything else. And so this is what's going to happen with real estate. And this happens every single time. So as interest rates go up, what happens to home prices? You tell me, home prices go down. At the end of the day, this has to equal this, has to equal this when they put the two together. And so when interest rates go up or down, it affects your rates. So for every 1% interest, it'll equal to 10% on your home price. So if interest rates, this is rough math, but if interest rates have gone up 5%, then home prices got to drop down 50%. Now, is it going to drop 50% in every single scenario? Absolutely not. Anytime any person tells you that everything is the same, it's not going to happen. So this is the rule of thumb. 1% interest rate equals 10% on your interest rate. That's a rule of thumb that you got to use over and over and over again. But it's not all equal. Here is what I want to show you. When you look at a home, you have, number one, you can call this labor. This is the hours of work that it takes to build your home. Number two, what is the number two? Material. Okay. Now you have material that goes into the cost of your home. Number three, you have land. And sometimes people will say the fourth one is your admin, which could be taxes or whatever in the area. But I don't like to put that one in there, actually, because when we actually break it down to administration, when you do that, what are the cities going to be using all of your admin taxes for? So different cities have land tax, welcome tax, they'll call it, stamp tax, duty, whatever they're going to call it. I don't care. But when they do that, they take that money and they pay their own civil servants that are working there to go and replace the roads and put in water pipes and run electrical lines and everything else that they have to do. But if you boil that down, it comes down to labor and materials as well. So it's good to know that. But if we have these three different sections, my question to you is what is happening with the cost of labor today? Can you tell me, do you think it is going up or down? It is 100% going up. It's going like this, straight up, as people are charging at the before the pandemic. My painter was charging me $75 an hour. Now he's $80 an hour. So labor is going way, way, way up. What about material? Now, there has been some softening of lumber prices, so we can't just use lumber, though. Overall, if you're looking at fridges, our microwaves that we're buying, the flooring, the studs, everything that we're doing, material consistently is moving up. Material is always going up, which leaves out the lowly outlier, which is land. You're never going to be able to drop the price of a home far below the cost of labor and material, these two together. And so it's usually land prices that are taking a hit. Now, land on its own has not, and people are still living in a delusion these days that prices are going to go back to where they were. They're not going to go back to there really, really quickly. So if we take a look at that, this one calendar here, you know exactly what's happening to land. Land has to react and land has to go down. So if you're in areas right now that you're over 1 million people, you're noticing the biggest drops overall. the biggest drops. But if you're in cities that are from like 100,000 people or so, what are you noticing in cities of 100,000, where you're the majority of the building cost is labor and material, not very much a land component? Those prices are going up. So you have to be in good areas. If you could be into some smaller areas to stay safe, when you're in those areas that have a lot of people moving in, good tax base, landlord friendly in those areas, a lot of jobs in the local region. If you're in an area like that, then you're going to be safe. Property prices are going to continue to go up. Where we're going to run into problems over and over again is going to be this right here. When people are only getting 2.5x their salaries now, this is what's going to cause them a lot of problems in the future. So let's just say for a second, we were giving an example before of somebody with a $1 million property. Okay. So a $1 million property, just to use easy math. Okay. Normally on a $1 million property, you would have around, let's just say $800,000 of mortgage. Okay. $800,000. But as we have seen recently, home prices have dropped in cities over 1 million people. They have dropped around 30%. So let's say this home now is worth $700,000. It's come way, way down. Okay. Now you can see automatically there's a big problem here. He now owes more on the home than what it's worth, but that's not where it stops. Remember, you can only borrow typically, let's just keep it simple, 20% down, 80% mortgage. So what is 80% of 500 of 700,000? Correct me if I'm wrong, but I think it's around 560,000. So right now, if that was the case, the bank will then say, hang on a second. Did you see this situation that you had up here before? $1 million and $800,000 mortgage. Well, now if the home now is $700,000, we will only lend you. We only feel comfortable giving you 560 on your property. What? Then what am I supposed to do right now? Well, I'm going to tell them, well, hang on a second. I have a difference here. There's $240,000 here. Where am I going to get that difference between these two? And this is where the bank will tell you, well, my friend, you have 10 days to come up with that $240,000. And if you don't come up with that $240,000, then we got to foreclose on your home. Now, it's not always 10 days. They might give you another reason. You might have a good relationship with them. But this is the principle that you cannot owe more money on your home than what it's worth. And so in a declining price environment like we are today, this is going to come back and bite a lot of people coming up very, very soon. So does this happen overnight? No. You got to look at the millions and millions of homes that are out there. And so eventually, if you just take the number of mortgages that are out there that are variable in the States or in Canada, just divide them all because we're basically all on variable in Canada. Once you have that, you just divide it. There's a certain number, thousands every single week that are going to be running into this exact same problem. Where's my extra money? Where's the cash? So this problem could be a lot bigger if the prices of the homes are bigger, right? And in Toronto, the average price is 1.2 million. So as this happens, more and more people every single week are going to be running into trouble. But are we in trouble yet? No, because 99.8% of all properties are still being paid on time. So people are pulling money out of their life insurance policies, from under their pillow, their savings, their lines of credit. They're putting it on credit cards. But if you look at the national numbers show credit card usage is going bananas up and savings is dropping like this. So when will this happen? Don't know. But we see a lot of mortgages that are going to be coming due in the third quarter of this year. So my suggestion is to pay attention to the third quarter this year. Now, if you're going to be buying on a mortgage, remember, mortgages are not available all the time. They're never available when times are really, really tough. So you either have to, it's like the shoulder season, winter is very hard, but what they call shoulder seasons, like the spring and fall. So imagine the winter like the recession. So you can't really get mortgages in that time, but you can get it just before in the fall or just after in the spring. That's when you can get mortgages. So if you're looking for a mortgage, property to buy with a mortgage, now might be a good time to start looking into that while mortgages are still available. If you're buying with cash, I would absolutely wait. But it's not a bad thing to wait until after the crash and pick up a property at that time either, But remember, it could take 18 months before we're officially declared into a recession. It could be 18 months within a recession. So then it might be a long time. But my point is I'm always looking for properties, good markets, bad markets, because I'm going to look at places to buy where it might not be in my backyard. People's number one mistake is always thinking that they have to buy a property in their backyard. They don't have to buy it within 6 blocks. You can then buy it an hour away, 5 hours away, a different state, a different province. And you can start collecting other properties that are really good deals that are there, and try to buy properties that are going to be safe and going to continue to cash flow for you forever. That's my main goal. We want to continue to accumulate as much good debt as we can always. And so we're always looking for deals because there's always deals out there. You know, there's a lot of people that need to sell because they're getting squeezed by the bank, or there's things that are happening in their life. Maybe they got blessed with a child and they need more space, or then there's a divorce, or there's a death in the family and they have to move, or something. There's always things happening. So there's always deals that are out there. So my advice to you is always be looking. And remember, the only thing that scares people is a lack of knowledge. Every single problem I've ever run into is just about a knowledge base. So continue to look for the answers and get comfortable being uncomfortable, because the more you're uncomfortable, the more you're going to learn. And that's my advice to you guys. Anyway, I love you guys. Thanks so much for coming by. I really, really appreciate it. Please consider subscribing, and let your friends know if this helps you at all. Thanks so much. Have a good night.